So you're working remotely, which most of us are now, maybe by necessity, or maybe you're even used to working remotely. But there's one ingredient that I want to make sure that we don't miss in this. And it's one that as I talk to people, I'm wondering and I'm starting to get a little bit concerned that we maybe be missing this in terms of making sure that we're working effectively as a team. And that's trust. Trust is a vital ingredient to any organization. It's a vital ingredient to any collaborative effort. And so even if you're not necessarily part of an intact team, you are by definition, if you're working for an organization, you are collaborating. And so now many of us are thinking about how to collaborate digitally when maybe we're not used to doing that. So I want to address the topic of how do you build trust? How do you maintain trust when you're working for the most part remotely or maybe 100% remotely? And I want us to break trust down into the ABCs. And so we're going to talk about the ABCs of building trust. And I've provided a free resource. And if you have that resource guide with you, it's just a tip sheet and a planning guide for you. So some things to think about, but then also some ways that you can think about being intentional about building trust. So it might be helpful to have that with you. But let's jump right in. So the A in the ABCs of building trust is represented by ask questions. Here's the way that I want us to think about this. Yes, business must continue and organizations have to continue to pursue their goals, but people matter. So ask questions is all about making sure that you're checking in with the people that you're working with. If you're a leader in an organization, making sure that you put people first. Do not miss the emotional component of all of this that's happening. And this is really good best practice anytime, but especially now in our challenging times. So asking questions represents making sure that you put the people that you're leading, the people that you're collaborating with, put their needs first and making sure that you're understanding. Make sure that you're asking about their health. Ask about people in their circle. Ask how you can be a support for them as well. I believe there's actually going to be some opportunities to build lasting trust and lasting relationships even beyond that. So if this is managed well, I think that the long game that can be played here is really to make sure that when we put people first, we can build relationships and we can have trust that lasts forever. The alternative to that is by not putting people first, not asking questions, not being a resource, that we're going to have trust that's diminished and people aren't going to know that they can count on us long term. Whether you're a leader or just an employee within the organization, it's a real time to build trust. When you think about asking questions, let me encourage you to think about how you might provide support, informational support, instrumental support, emotional support. So informational support would be that is, hey, how can I do some research for you? Can I provide some additional information for you on this? Instrumental support may mean that you take something off of somebody's plate and you offer to help them with it. So instrumental support. Emotional support though really is just trying to be there for somebody and ask, hey, how can I help you? How can I can I just be someone that's there to listen to you and just encouraging people to really reach out to you to provide emotional support. So that's the A, is ask questions. The B is bring everyone together. And this could be literally, it could just be metaphorically. But let me look at it on two levels. One is from a cultural standpoint, bringing people together culturally. So this is really important. It's very important to still gather online and to simulate as best you can what it's like to work in an office environment. Now, certainly it may be nice for some of us we may enjoy having a little bit of separation time from some of our colleagues, but at the end of the day, it's really important that we reinforce our organization's culture, but then also stay focused on shared goals. And so that bringing everyone together can serve that really nicely. And what I would encourage you to do is consider the norms of your culture. If for instance, you have a routine of having a Friday evening happy hour, is there a way that you can simulate that somehow in an online environment, right? Perhaps you bring everybody in for a huddle at the end of the week. Maybe you do a Monday morning huddle. So take whatever cultural norms and practices you're used to, and then think about continuing to replicate that in different forms. Matter of fact, you might even need to do more of that now that you don't have that face-to-face contact. People spend up to a third of their waking lives at work and around work. So when that's gone, we want to make sure that we're still able to keep the culture and the glue together that drives our business. And that's going to ultimately help us to build trust when face-to-face communication is limited, if not completely gone. So that's going to be important. The second thing, though, in addition to the cultural pieces, and the communication climate that's within the culture are the operational perspective as well. So, organizations they're not buildings, right? They're not just physical spaces. They're really about people collaborating based on shared goals. So kind of the idea that we're still in this together is really important. So one really simple, concrete way that you can make sure that you bring people together is by focusing on your organization's shared goals, its shared values, or its operating priorities and principles. So I would encourage you as a leader, I would encourage you as an employee to really be thinking about what are our values as an organization. And you may have to reframe those a little bit, right? To think, gosh, okay, now how do we continue to do what we do, but digitally? How do we do it working remotely? And it turns out that those values and those shared priorities and principles can really act as anchor points to help you build trust and maintain trust if you focus on, hey, our mission hasn't changed at all. Our methods are adapting a little bit though. So just for some specific ways that you might do that, Google Hangouts can be a really helpful one, using Zoom video conferencing software, whatever it may be. Or you may just have to be more flexible with how you're communicating. If you've only communicated by email, maybe you're going to offer a different level of richness by offering video conferencing software. I've got a separate training, a mini training on media richness, so I would check that out and make sure that you're picking the right kind of methods to match the message that you're wanting to send and what your ultimate goal is, which in this case is to bring people together, reinforce the culture, continue in the operations. The C, really, really critical, is all about clarity. Clarify everything. There's never a time as a communicator, especially as a leader, when clarity is not important, but now more than ever, it is absolutely critical. So even make sure you're clarifying your expectations on how often we're going to check in with each other, what the communication norms are going to be, if it's going to be by text or by email or by web chat, whatever it is. Make sure you clarify that. How often are we going to check in? You know, from a communication standpoint, it might encourage us to redefine, what does success look like? What does successful online collaboration look like? Especially if you've never worked remotely. You don't have an answer for that to begin with, let alone now that it's required. And so be sure that you're going to be really clear about what's changed. How are you going to be available to people to help? How are you going to reach out, and what kind of methods are you going to use as well? So really having those preferred methods of check-ins and just being super clear on what that's going to be is really important. And it's never too late. If you've been working remote for 2 weeks and realize you haven't done that, it's not too late. I would just encourage you to really to lean into clarity. Okay, I've got one bonus for you. I gave you the ABCs: ask questions, bring people together, and then clarify. But here's a bonus for you, and this is encourage. Encourage one another. Calls, texts. Here's the deal. At the end of the day, isolation is not natural for us as people. Okay? And so it's really important, no matter what the culture of your organization is, but especially if your culture is one that you connect a lot, I would just encourage you to be able to make sure that that people aren't isolated. They don't feel like they're isolated. So have some routines, have some rhythms, just to really help people bring together. And ultimately, the ABCs plus this bonus, the E, is going to help us to build and maintain trust. Hey, I would love to continue to provide help for you. I hope this training video was helpful, but definitely make sure you connect with me, and let's have a follow-up conversation to see if I can help you and your organization be more successful and to build trust and have organizations and cultures that are positive and that are effective places to work. Thank you.